The economy now. Earlier today, we learned that 385,000 people filed for unemployment last week. That's not good for them, obviously, but it's a good sign because this marks the first time that number has dropped below 400,000 since March 14th, 2020, when COVID-19 forced shutdowns across the country. But what do these positive new numbers mean for the millions of Americans who are still looking for a job? Let's bring in ABC News business correspondent Deirdre Bolton. So, Deirdre, which industries out there are doing a lot of the hiring? Which are the best industries if you're looking for a job to go looking?
Terry, there are three industries that are stealing all the others' thunder, but in the best way possible. So leisure and hospitality, this is really where we're adding the most jobs back to the economy. Not a huge surprise. This was the sector that was really hurt the most during the pandemic. But if you look at comparison charts, Terry, you will see it's basically 3 times the strength of any other category. So certainly standing out as bars and restaurants reopen at full capacity, as hotels reopen, as people feel more comfortable even going to outdoor concerts. All of those events, all of those outings fall under that category as far as ADP, that's the survey I'm taking this data from, that all falls under that category. Next up, you sort of have a tie for silver and bronze, if you like. Health service is a big part of it. Think about your dentist. Think about some elective procedures or checkups that maybe people would have put off during the pandemic, meaning, oh, my shoulder hurts, but it's not hurting me that much. You might have put off that appointment during the pandemic. Now you're going back to your doctor's office to have a look at that. That doctor's office is also bringing back his or her staff. Interestingly enough, the third category, trade and transport, which are very much linked. So as department stores reopen, as we all want to shop a little bit more in person, there obviously has to be goods for us to look at while we're in those places. So trade and transport is really adding up, and you can kind of take away, infer a huge retail part of that, Terry.
Well, Deirdre, now let's talk about the geography of employment as we come out of this pandemic. Is the entire nation coast to coast hiring at the same rate, or are there bright spots and spots that are still struggling?
So there are bright spots and spots that are still struggling, but we're really at this pivotal moment. We're seeing a huge shift. First of all, I'll just point out that the states that were the least strict with the COVID regulations, with lockdowns, they're the ones that, if you look at their unemployment rates compared to the others, have held reasonably steady. So Florida is a good example of that. The governor resisted, for better or worse, closing a lot of businesses. And so Florida, as a state, its unemployment has held very steady if you compare it to, for example, California or New York. But here's the underlining factor here. During the pandemic, we saw a huge economic shift towards goods and away from services because, quite frankly, most of us were scared to interact with other humans. So obviously that showed up in patterns and in spending patterns. That is beginning to shift again. So in this latest set of data, what we see are tons of services jobs being added and goods jobs being defavorized. So goods jobs are mostly in the Midwest. They held up actually pretty well during the pandemic. But on these charts, you're beginning to see basically the West Coast and the Northeast gaining strength as we return to the quote-unquote normal services-based economy. And Terry, you know this as well. Tomorrow, huge number. Every economist paying attention to it, every market participant paying attention to it. We're going to find out how many jobs were added to the U.S. economy last month. For those keeping track at home, there are still 7.6 million jobs missing, if you like, from the U.S. economy if you compare that to the February 2020 number. So that's going to be a big pivot point for investors and citizens tomorrow, Terry.
Partly because job growth has, it seems, slowed a little bit. People reluctant maybe to come back. ABC News business correspondent Deirdre Bolton, thanks very much.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.